Hey, Sopranos fans! Welcome to another episode here on Bully Whispers, and we are here today to discuss Paulie Walnuts. Now, every time I do a video about Paulie, or even one that just features him heavily, there are inevitably some questions regarding his character that pop up down in the comments, so today we will address some of them. In this episode, which will probably be a relatively short one, we will start by taking a second to answer some of the simpler questions, like why was he called Paulie Walnuts and was he an FBI informant, before moving on to what is probably the most commonly asked question in the comments: why was Nancy by Frank Sinatra his song?
What the fuck? Why is this his song?
And end with an idea that occurred to me while researching this episode regarding whether or not he had any influence in the naming of the character Junior Soprano. The fact that Paulie is called Paulie Walnuts by fans far more often than he's called Paulie Gutierrez is funny because he's only called Paulie Walnuts once, early in Season 2 by Richie Aprile.
Well, that's funny. Paulie Walnuts told me he ran into you this morning.
And he is called that because apparently back in the day, he hijacked a truck that he thought was full of TVs, but it was actually full of walnuts. As to whether or not he was a government informant, the theory that has been presented to me is that he flipped during his time that he was locked up, and that's why he got out so fast, not because someone admitted to the charge. Unfortunately, this one is not true, and it has nothing to do with the character Paulie Walnuts, but rather the actor Tony Sirico. Tony Sirico was known for saying he would never play a rat, and as such, in order to get him to take that role, Paulie was never going to be a snitch. That is just one of the many ways the real-life actor influenced the character, a concept that will come into play later when addressing our main question: why is Nancy by Frank Sinatra his song? First, we have to acknowledge the fact that it might just be there to give the audience the same reaction as Bobby Bacala.
What the fuck? Why is this his song?
Having acknowledged that, we must also keep in mind that Frank Sinatra was incredibly popular among that generation, and due to his underworld connections, especially so with the mob crowd. Like the old saying goes, what has broken legs and floats down a river? People who tell Frank Sinatra jokes. But even if it was just an issue of that generation liking Sinatra, why the song Nancy in particular when so many other songs, like My Way, would seem more fitting? While most of the responses fell in one of two categories, one was, let's say, different enough for me to check it out and see what I thought. According to this response, Paulie's extreme homophobia was to cover the fact that he was gay. Somehow this song was further proof, and left nothing further to back it up, nor did they post any follow-up comments. So, having not really ever heard the entire song before, I gave it a listen and read the lyrics, and frankly I don't see it. The closest thing might be picture a tomboy in lace, but that's pretty weak and seems incredibly unlikely. The majority of people, however, fell into one of two groups, with the first thinking it was because it reminded him of his mother/aunt, and the second thinking it was because it represented something he couldn't have. Both seem reasonable, since other than their spat, Paulie is a bit of a mama's boy, and he is aware of what he's giving up by being in the mob.
Oh, no offense, but ask me, marriage and I think don't jive.
That being said, despite the fact that the song says, "Sorry for you, she has no sister," which would seemingly rule out his mom, I think it's also important to note that Paulie isn't that deep of a thinker. So in that sense, assuming the song is Nancy due to the character Paulie Walnuts without any influence by Tony Sirico, then I think it's just as likely, if not more likely, that it's because of his mom, since she is by far the most important woman in his life. However, as previously mentioned, Tony Sirico had an above-average influence on the character he played, and other cast members have noted how similar the actor and the character are in many ways. As mentioned in a Rolling Stone article, Sirico said that the worst trouble he ever got in was when he got shot in the leg for kissing a girl the other guy liked, and his only thought was, this guy just ruined my fucking white suit. Now tell me that doesn't sound like something Paulie Walnuts would say. So with the influence that Tony Sirico had on Paulie Walnuts in mind, maybe Nancy was Sirico's favorite song. Sinatra was very popular in Sirico's time and place, and we know from his interview that he had experienced head-over-heels type love.
Fell in love with a little girl in the neighborhood. About 3 months after I got married. I was madly in love with this girl. I was madly in love with her.
Unfortunately, that didn't work out well for anybody, but the experiences were still real. And of course, there's the possibility that he just liked the melody. There was one other thing, however, that stood out for me in that interview that I would like to hear your thoughts on.
My full name Gennaro Anthony Sirico, Jr.
And people call you,
I'm stuck with the name Junior.
you don't like it.
I'm 45 years old. Would you like it?
Seeing as how that interview took place well before The Sopranos, do you think that had any influence on the character Junior being called Junior? While Tony Sirico doesn't seem very insecure, Junior Soprano definitely is, and it doesn't seem too far-fetched that the idea of Sirico hating being called Junior as a grown man was written into Junior Soprano's character, even if Junior Soprano didn't specifically say he hated it. Anyways, let me know down in the comments if you think there's any connection, and I'm going to leave you with a question of my own regarding Paulie Walnuts. Assuming his song wasn't Nancy, what do you think the right song would be for Paulie, and why? Well, thanks for watching this episode here on Bully Whispers. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next score.